The northern kingdom of Aerolith lived under an endless winter. Snow fell like slow ash, silent and steady, covering every roof and every road until the whole land looked trapped in a pale dream. People told stories that the winter was born from an old curse, but only the wind kept the truth. And in the royal palace of frost-white stone lived the one person who felt the winter most deeply, Princess Alara, the forgotten daughter. She moved quietly through the long, cold halls, always alone. Servants bowed as she passed, but only out of duty. No one stayed to speak with her. No one asked how she felt or where she was going. Alara had learned that silence was easier to carry than hope. She was gentle, soft-spoken, and born with a strange calmness that the rest of her family never understood. The queen, her mother, was powerful and sharp. Her siblings were strong and loud. Alara, however, felt like a whisper inside a storm. People believed she had no power. They also believed the endless winter grew stronger every year she lived. Some said she was a cursed child. Others said she was simply a reminder of a prophecy the queen wished to forget. Alara did not know what was true anymore. She only knew one thing: she felt invisible. It was as if she was a small candle in a giant frozen world, and so she waited. She did not wait for love or comfort or a future. She simply waited to fade, the same way snow melts under a weak sun. One morning, when the sky was pale silver and snowflakes drifted like feathers, the royal family prepared for a procession across Mirror Lake, a lake famous for its still water and the thick ice that covered it during winter. The queen stood tall in her shimmering cloak, her presence as cold as the air around her. Alara walked behind her unnoticed like a shadow. The wind was soft and the lake shone like glass. The court moved across the ice, their footsteps echoing faintly. Alara walked near the back, her gaze on the patterns beneath her feet. The ice looked deeper than usual, darker too, like it hid something ancient. A strange feeling brushed against her heart, a quiet pull, as if someone far below called her name. She paused, placing her hand gently on the surface. The chill rushed into her palm. The lake felt alive, whispering, listening. Before she could move, the ice trembled under her. A thin crack appeared, sharp and clear like a line of light. Ilara's eyes widened. She stepped back, but the crack spread faster than she could escape. It shot beneath her feet, weaving in all directions like lightning trapped in frozen water. She looked up, hoping someone would reach out. But no one turned to her. Even her mother kept walking, unaware. The ice broke. For a moment, Alara felt weightless. The cold air rushed around her. Then the freezing water swallowed her whole. The world above became blurry and distant. Her breath pushed out in small bubbles that drifted upward like tiny stars. Her thoughts were slow, peaceful even. She felt no fear, only a deep tiredness she had carried for years. Maybe this is how someone forgotten disappears, she thought. Quietly, the cold wrapped around her, pulling her deeper. Her eyes closed, but far below, under layers of ancient ice and forgotten magic, something felt her presence. Something old. Something bound. Something that had waited much longer than she ever had. A faint pulse of warmth entered the dark water. A thread of power stirred. And then, the ancient prison cracked, deep beneath the lake inside a chamber made of black stone and ice. Valerius, the Alpha Vampire King, opened his eyes for the first time in centuries. His long imprisonment had frozen his body, but not his mind. He remembered the Queen's betrayal. He remembered the winter curse that fed on sorrow. He remembered every moment of being trapped in a cold world where nothing changed, nothing moved. But now, something warm brushed against his senses, a soul flickering in the dark like a dying ember. A human heartbeat. Soft, fragile, but bright. Valerius rose, the ice around him breaking into shards. His body felt heavy, but his instincts were powerful. He followed the warmth, moving through tunnels of ancient frost until he reached a crack in the ceiling. Water dripped through, carrying the faint scent of a life fading too soon. Without hesitation, he broke through the final layer of ice. Above the lake, a faint ripple disturbed the surface. A pale arm, slender and trembling, drifted downward. Valerius reached out, his strong hand closing gently around it. He pulled Alara from the water. When her face appeared in the moonlight, her eyes were closed, her lashes covered in frost. She looked like a frozen flower carried by the river of winter. Valerius felt something he had not felt in centuries. Concern. Not because she was human and not because she was royalty, but because her soul felt strangely connected to the magic that bound him. He carried her to an abandoned sanctuary hidden behind the lake, a place carved in obsidian stone, where moonlight entered through broken windows. The air inside was cold, but not as sharp as the winter outside. Valerius placed Alara on a stone platform and brushed his hand lightly over her face. Her skin warmed beneath his touch. Her breathing steadied. She opened her eyes slowly, confusion clouding them. The first thing she saw was him, tall, powerful, with dark hair falling over his shoulders and eyes silver like moonlight on steel. He did not look human. He did not look like a king either. He looked like a force of nature, something ancient that survived ages of silence. Alara sat up weakly. Who are you?" she whispered. "Someone who should not be awake," Valerius answered, his voice deep and calm. "But you changed that." She looked around the sanctuary, then back at him. "You saved me, perhaps," he said. "Or perhaps you saved me." She did not understand what he meant, but something in his tone made her chest tighten with emotion she had never felt before. No one had ever spoken to her like she mattered. Her gaze fell on the frost creeping along the sanctuary's walls. Strange symbols glowed faintly beneath the ice, old runes she had never learned. As she walked toward them, the symbols brightened under her presence. Valerius watched her closely. "You feel it too," he said. "This place responds to you." Alara touched the wall and the frost melted under her fingertips, revealing the full shape of the runes. A soft wind moved through the sanctuary even though no door was open. Something ancient recognized her. Something ancient reached for her. Valerius stepped closer, his voice low. "You are not what you believe you are, princess." Her breath caught. "How do you know who I am?" "I knew your family once," he answered. "Long before you were born. And now I know this. You carry the same magic that imprisoned me." Alara's heart hammered. "I didn't mean I know," he said gently. "Your presence is not a threat. It is a key." She turned to him, her eyes bright with fear and wonder. A key to what? Before he could answer, the sanctuary trembled. The runes glowed brighter, then burst into a cold blue light that shot toward the ceiling. The air grew heavy. A sound like a distant heartbeat echoed through the stone walls. Valerius stiffened. "The curse is waking." Alara stepped back as frost raced across the floor, reaching toward Valerius like living vines of ice. They wrapped around his feet and climbed up his legs, glowing with the same blue light. Alara reached out in panic.
"Stop, let him go!"
But the curse ignored her voice. Valerius dropped to one knee as the frost tightened around him. His strength drained and his silver eyes dimmed. "Alara," he whispered, struggling to stay conscious. "You must run. I won't leave you," she cried. The frost surged, pulling him down. The sanctuary lights shattered into darkness, and Alara, for the first time in her life, felt fear not for herself, but for someone who had finally seen her. Darkness spread through the old sanctuary like a slow wave. The last bit of light faded from the shattered runes, leaving only a soft blue glow from the frost that held Valerius down. Alara stood frozen, her heart beating so loudly she could hear it echo in her ears. Valerius tried to rise, but the curse wrapped around him like chains made of winter. His strength drained with every second. Alara could see frost crawling up his arms, across his shoulders, and toward his neck. She stepped forward quickly. "I'm here. I will help you." But she had no idea how to fight a curse as old as the kingdom itself. Valerius lifted his head, breathing slowly. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "You must leave, before the curse ties itself to you too." Alara shook her head. She didn't care about the danger. She didn't care about the cold. All she cared about was the man who had saved her when everyone else had looked away. "I will not leave you," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion she couldn't hide. "I cannot." For a moment, Valerius's silver eyes warmed. There was something gentle in them, something he had not shown in centuries. But then a wave of cold rushed over him and he closed his eyes again. Alara reached for his hand. Her fingers touched his skin, warm for only a second before the frost tried to freeze her too. But instead of turning cold, her touch made the frost melt slightly. A small patch of light broke through. She gasped. "It listens to me." Valerius opened his eyes again, surprised. You have power over it, Ilara swallowed. I don't know how, but I want to learn. The sanctuary trembled again. Dust fell from the ceiling. The frost around Valerius grew thicker, as if the curse suddenly realized she was interfering. Ilara knew she couldn't save him here. They needed answers. They needed a way to break the curse. Valerius, she whispered, lifting his arm around her shoulders with all the strength she had. We're leaving. The frost tried to hold him, but her determination seemed to weaken its grip. With a final pull, she freed him from the frozen vines and helped him to his feet. His body was heavy, tired, but he stood with her support. They left the sanctuary together, stepping into the quiet night where snowflakes drifted through the air like tiny glowing feathers. They walked across the frozen forest slowly. Valerius leaned on Ilara, each step difficult for him. The curse followed them, soft cracks of frost forming on trees as they passed. It was as if the whole winter watched them. Ilara felt the weight of the moment. He was strong, ancient, powerful, yet now he depended on her, and she had never felt needed before. The wind whispered through the branches, guiding them toward a place Ilara had never seen, the lost winter grove hidden deep in the kingdom. Legend said it was the first place touched by the winter curse, long before any king or queen ever ruled, but Ilara didn't reach the grove by chance. Her heart pulled her there like something inside her knew the path. Valerius looked at her with tired curiosity. Your connection to the curse, it is deeper than you realize, Ilara swallowed. What do you mean? He stopped walking for a moment, leaning against a fallen tree. Snow gathered on his shoulders as he spoke. The Winter Queen feared your power, he said quietly. She feared you would awaken the magic she could not control. That is why she kept you silent, small, hidden. Ilara felt something break inside her, not pain but understanding. All her life she thought she was weak. But maybe she was held down. Maybe she was meant for more. We will find the truth, she said firmly, helping him again. I promise. Valerius gave her a soft look, one filled with gratitude and something warmer, something she could not name yet. You are braver than you know. When they reached the lost winter grove, the air changed. The snow stopped falling. The wind grew quiet. Tall trees made of crystal-like ice stood in a ring, their branches glowing faintly in shades of blue. At the center of the grove stood an ancient stone altar covered in frost. Symbols swirled across its surface, the same runes from the sanctuary. Valerius touched the altar. The frost reacted, lighting up beneath his fingertips. This is where the curse began, he said, and perhaps where it can end. Ilara stepped forward. The runes glowed even brighter when she neared them. Her presence stirred the air, making the snow at her feet melt in soft circles. Valerius watched her closely. You were born with a gift, he said. A gift the queen feared. A gift the curse has waited for. Ilara placed her hands on the runes. A wave of warmth spread through her. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel cold. The altar lit up, showing old images, a story the stones had held for centuries. Ilara saw a queen from long ago, crying beneath the snow. She saw a winter spirit offering her power in exchange for her sorrow. She saw the curse born from heartbreak, spreading across the land. Then she saw something else, a child quiet and gentle, carrying a spark of warmth strong enough to break the curse forever. Ilara stepped back in shock. It was always supposed to be me? Valerius nodded. Yes, you were the answer the kingdom feared. Her heart pounded with fear, hope, and something indescribable. She looked at Valerius, at the frost crawling up his arms again, stronger this time. If I take the curse, she whispered, I can stop it. Valerius grabbed her wrist gently. No, you do not know the cost. Ilara met his eyes. You saved me, and I won't watch you fall now. His expression softened with something deep and vulnerable. Ilara, you matter more than you know. Her breath caught. She didn't understand why his words felt like they melted something inside her. Maybe because no one had ever said she mattered. Maybe because Valerius said it with such sincerity it shook her soul. She stepped closer to him, placing her hand over his. I choose this, she whispered. Before he could stop her, Ilara placed both hands on the altar. A bright wave of light burst outward. Warmth filled her body, not painful, but powerful. The frost lifted from Valerius instantly, breaking apart like dust, His strength returned and he called her name, reaching out. Ilara! But she was too deep inside the magic to hear him. The light rushed through her, showing her memories. The lonely halls, the silent days, the moments she prayed quietly to be noticed. She felt each emotion, each tear, but instead of hurting her, the magic absorbed them. The curse broke. The eternal winter lifted. The grove burst into warm light. The snow melting in seconds, the ice trees turning into crystal clear water. When the light finally faded, Ilara collapsed gently into Valerius's arms. He held her tightly. Ilara, speak to me. She opened her eyes slowly, but there was a softness, a fog in them. Who are you? She whispered. Valerius froze. She didn't remember him. The magic had taken her memories of their bond, the price for ending the winter. His chest ached with a quiet grief he had not felt in centuries. But he didn't blame her. He brushed a hand over her hair, his voice low and full of emotion. You are free now. That is all that matters. He helped her stand. When she looked at him, she did not see the man who had saved her, or the man she had chosen to save. She only saw a stranger with gentle eyes. Valerius stepped back, preparing to leave. It was better this way, he told himself. Better to disappear than confuse her heart. But as he turned away, Ilara felt a sudden ache in her chest. A soft, painful pull she didn't understand. She reached out without thinking. Wait. Valerius froze. Ilara stepped closer, her eyes confused yet full of emotion. I don't know you, but when you walk away it hurts here. She placed her hand on her heart. Why? A slow warmth spread through the grove. The last whisper of broken destiny. Valerius turned toward her, his eyes softening. Because some bonds are stronger than magic. Ilara stared at him, her heartbeat quickening for reasons she could not remember. And somewhere deep inside her, something warm began to thaw again.